Hello, my friends. Boomy here once again, my gaming brothers and sisters, BioWare loving brothers and sisters. How's everyone doing today? Hey, while you're here, hit that subscribe and the like button as we delve more into gaming news, and we're gonna follow the saga that is BioWare. And with the whole buyout of EA, people are in the flop that Veilguard was. People are asking the question, what about Mass Effect 5? What's happening there? Mark Darrah has come out in another YouTube video explaining things about, as many of you have been following me for a long time will know, that one of my favorite games and one of the things that annoys me the most is that EA canned the game Anthem, and a game that I thought had tons of potential, a game that I had been following since the beginning. I did news for it, I knew the devs, I was there during the highs and all its lows, and the excitement of when they thought they were going to be able to do an Anthem 2.0, where EA is like, okay, give us a little mock-up of what you might think it will be. And then there was hope, right? There was hope, but as things go in the gaming industry, some games fail, and that's fair, and some stuff is done. And some games that have been around for quite a while are given the chance to redeem itself. But I would beg the question in this video of, well, those games had a beginning too. They started from somewhere. They were not just the monoliths that they are today. And could have Anthem been a monolith had EA actually believed in it and let the 2.0 go and see what happens? That's my question for you guys as we go along. This article on Game Radar, which will be in the description below. This is written by Jordan Gerblick. It says, EA hits like Battlefield 4 and The Sims 4 were given time to bounce back from rough launches because they were, in quotes, too big to fail. Whereas with BioWare's Anthem, it wasn't a given that it was going to be that big. BioWare veteran Mark Darrah has given his insight into why it seems like EA was so quick to move on from Anthem's failure when it gave plenty of time to studios like DICE and Maxis to fix games that also didn't do well at launch, like Battlefield 4 and The Sims 4, respectively. In the latest episode of his What Happened on Anthem's video series, which I think I'm going to delve more into because I kind of feel like with the whole purchase, and I could be wrong, allegedly, I could be completely wrong, my personal opinion, Mark's been really coming out heavy with, kind of giving us the picture of what went wrong with Anthem, what happened. And he's, in my kind of point of view, as I'm seeing it, maybe with the buyout of EA, and you never know, the potential closure of BioWare, depending on what happens in Mass Effect 5, they might move that team to another studio and just say, BioWare, you had your chance, you boofed up, you're gone. I kind of feel like Mark's really kind of like setting the record straight, putting it out there into the ether on the internet so that his side of the story will always be there. I don't know if that's my own opinion, but let's continue. Darrah broke down the two big incentives for EA to invest more in fixing a game like Battlefield 4 as opposed to Anthem. Mark Darrah said, in quotes, Battlefield had his track record of selling way more than 10 million copies, so it was seen as, to some degree, too big to fail, said Darrah. It was seen as already a giant franchise, so the effort was seen as bringing it back to something it was already shown to be, as opposed to something like Anthem, which was brand new. It wasn't clear or obvious or given that it was going to be that big. And to 10 million copies for a game, especially back then, that was giant. Anthem did about 5 million with this lifetime right there. The first initial launch of it, it got 2 million copies, and then it collected up to 5 million as it went on. So not bad. I don't think it was that bad, but still, back when this first launched, those type of numbers were still kind of big, and that 5 million did kind of hit EA's little threshold of like, we'd like to see 5 to 6 million, and it did hit that, but there were lots of bumps along that way, which kind of reminds me again to saying that every game has its beginning. This reminds me of Final Fantasy XIV. When it first launched, it did horrible. And they went back, took it offline, and said, guys, we're going to fix it. We're going to invest the money to it. And some people were like, well, Boomy, Final Fantasy is an established IP, and people have been loving it forever. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but I think 14 also shows that, it's an MMO style, right? So it also shows that what can happen when a developer company, a publisher, believes in the product enough to go, okay, let's go back to scratch. and let's rebuild this thing the way it should have been. And I think at the end of the day, EA would have been making money over fist because Anthem had it all there. The flying was revolutionary in the game. You're going under the water in your freaking mech suit. Story was very mad. They really needed to work on the story. And that's kind of like during that era when people were starting to go, why do the characters look like that? Why do the females look like males just with kind of female-ish faces? What's going on here? That's when we kind of started seeing a lot of that crap coming into our games, but that is neither here nor there. He continues in the article, so that's one reason for the apparent discrepancy, but according to Darrah, an even bigger factor was simply the structure of BioWare. The studio was never known for Anthem. It was known for Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect. If a new experiment like Anthem fails, BioWare can just go back to one of its tried and true IPs. Conversely, with DICE, circa 2013, your choices are either to fix Battlefield 4 or shut the studio down, Darrah said. He continues, and through much of its recent history, EA has been very reluctant to shut down studios, whereas BioWare, because you have 2 or 3, or maybe sometimes even 4 games jockeying for resources, when something isn't working as well as you wanted, there is always someone else that is desperate for those people, so there's always a greater pressure drawing those resources away. And you know what? That's fair. At that time, BioWare was chunking out games. They didn't have Baldur's Gate at that point, but they had, they're freaking working on Dragon Age, which took them 10 years and for it to just fall flat out of the cupboard. And they're apparently working on Mass Effect 5, still in the beginning stages. But I remember when Anthem, when they were going through the developer hell, right? They're going through the major crunch time. They were taking resources and people from Star Wars The Old Republic as well. It was pretty much all hands on deck. And I think things in SWTOR, if memory serves me right, were delayed because of that a little bit, because everyone wanted to get in and get Anthem out there and launched. Was it launched way too early? Yes, it was. They rushed that sucker out the door. Did it go through developer hell with the revolving door for directors for that game? Yep, they did. Were there lots of embarrassing moments for that game? Yeah, I remember those live streams too. Yes, all those things were there. This thing had disaster written all over it, and plus with Mass Effect Andromeda not doing what, EA would have loved for it to do, and a lot of people not really accepting that into the whole Mass Effect universe. They wanted their Shepard back. I personally kind of liked Andromeda, but I get why people didn't like it. The lens was on BioWare, and I think EA was kind of sitting there going like, listen, we can't do another flop, guys. We just can't. All our money is really riding on Dragon Age right now. And we kind of saw how that turned out, and God only knows what's going to happen to BioWare at this point. The article concludes saying, there's probably no greater authority on the failure of Anthem than Darrah, at least not one so willing to talk at length about the topic. His multi-part video autopsy examines fundamental issues with the game's botched multiplayer, lame story, and now EA's reluctance to give BioWare the time and resources to turn things around. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business. I get that part. But I think from a business standpoint, Anthem had everything there. It had the potential. They had, you can tell if you did the story and you played through the story, that there is something there. From a writer's mind, from someone who's a creative, who does these things, I saw the potential of the story. I understood kind of where it was going. It did kind of seem very short, and you're like, oh, that's it? Why is that the thing it is? You didn't have multiple stories for different type of the class that you were doing. In Anthem, everyone was pretty much the same. So it didn't really grab you by the beard on that one, or the pigtails. I don't know, whatever you think you are. It didn't really grab you. And then, but I think, like I said, the best part, like, for me, was not just the environment, which, right, and yes, an environment doesn't necessarily sell a game. You're talking about gameplay. I love the gameplay. I love the weapons. I loved teaming up with people and going in there and just destroying the whole place. It was fun. The mech suits were awesome. I liked the different choices you had for the coloring and how you can really, like, just make your mech suit your own. And I love that. I love that the flying was my favorite part, right? Because that was revolutionary back then. BioWare came up with something awesome and great, and it laid a great foundation to where I think those people who were in charge of doing it, Anthem 2.0, were very kind of like, okay, we might be able to do this. Because a lot of us, when we heard that Anthem was pretty much going to be like, we're like, oh god. But then we heard that there might be an Anthem 2.0. We were starting to see stuff on Twitter about it, them teasing us with like, you know, updates and how things are going. We're like, there's hope. There is hope. And then EA's like, nah, there's no hope. And as of January the 2026, the servers will be completely shut down. So if you have played if you have played Anthem and you just want to get in there, get some screenshots, now's the time. Re-download it, go in, have some fun before it's completely shut down. And who knows, maybe some other studio might pick it up and be like, listen, we got this. Give us a couple years, we'll make this thing what it should have been. And they did a freaking almost like movie live action thing for Anthem as well as part of the marketing for it. And man, it just had so much stupid potential. Take a shot every time I say that it just annoys me to this day that they let this one go. This could have been something that could have been big for them, but they just didn't give it the chance. And I think too many gaming studios just don't give games a chance. If it doesn't sell immediately, it's gone. Do I hope there's another Dragon Age down the road? I think there will be, but right now they want nothing to do with that game. Let's hope Mass Effect 5 has a better result and they're able to actually do the Mass Effect 5, because there is still a hunger for that game. Anyways, my friends, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Mark Darrah and what he's saying about all this? What do you think about EA? Should they have let it go, or was there enough potential there for that EA should have just said, okay, give us a 2.0, here's your deadline, make it happen? Let me know what you guys think. Let's keep the conversation going on down. Make sure you hit that like button, the share button, and that bell notification button, my friends. And hey, if you're mobile and you're all that jazz, hit that hype button, because that helps channels out quite a bit. It helps the video really shoot up there to go to the front of the line. And as we are just crested over 8,000 family members here, we're on that road to 10,000. We're hoping to get it there by New Year's, but we will see. Anyways, my friends, keep it going. And hey, do you want to get early access videos? Do you want to get a monthly podcast? Do you want to get more and deep personal access to me? You know you do. Become a member to the channel. Literally keeps the lights on here in the studios at HQ. And either way, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Become part of the family here at BoomyNation, the freak show YouTube, the black sheep of gaming. And as always, my friends, remember to be kind. It's about community. And don't forget to spay and neuter, well, your Anthem. We'll see you later, my friends. Good day. Simply the best. Epic tales on every shore. Hit that button. Ask for more.